Hey there, are you grieving the potential loss of a loved one or feeling overwhelmed with the loss of someone you care about? If so, you're in the right place. Lisa Hartung here, and this podcast is designed to guide you through topics surrounding death and dying. We'll dive into multifaceted aspects of grief, offering you a blend of personal stories, expert insights, and practical advice for your grief journey. May this be a safe space for you to learn, listen, and ask questions about your own life and loved ones. So grab your favorite beverage and let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to another week with Giving Grief Grace. This is our special Advent series. So we have an Advent series going on. This is week 2. And the whole theme is from memory to meaning. So throughout this month, we will be honoring the past, really staying in the present and feeling the present, and then building hope for the future. So if you missed it, last week was all about honoring and remembering our loved one in meaningful ways. And if you aren't yet, please go ahead and follow us on Instagram or Facebook. The handle is Giving Grief Grace, and join in the stories. It has been so fun to hear your comments, listen to fun stories of your loved ones and how you interacted with them and how you shared meaningful memories with them. So thank you so much for sharing and being in this community. I think especially during the holidays, this is really what brings our loved ones to life and helps them being part of the stories that we have on a regular basis. Week 1 was honoring and remembering. Now we are in week 2. And this is a little bit hard because week 2 is focused all on feeling the feelings and holding space for how you are feeling right now. The idea is that we normalize grief and just let it be instead of trying to rush through it. So that's something that I hear a lot when speaking with people who are grieving is, I just want it to be over. I just want to get through it. And we know like there's no way around it. There's no way over it, under it. You have to go through it. You also want to give it space, right? You want to give grief grace. That's where the whole premise of the podcast came from. We are putting words to our feelings. We're making space. We are intentionally thinking about our feelings because I don't think that in the busyness of life, we really do enough of it. What I want us to go into this week thinking is what emotion is kind of bubbling up that you need to give yourself space with. And if it's a really traumatizing emotion or it's a really tough emotion to get through, what would bring you comfort? So is there a time when you can actually feel those feelings and then feel the relief of letting that energy leave your body, right? Like you exhale and let it all out. It's amazing. And crying is really cathartic. And after you had a good cry, it's like, all right, wept away all of that negative energy or that sadness and the grief and the anxiety. And all right, I'm ready to turn over a new leaf, but I had to go through that first. How can you show up for yourself? And if maybe you're not grieving, but there's a loved one that is grieving, if you yourself are ill and you're really struggling, think about, okay, what feeling do I keep bumping up against and how can I let that feeling have its space so that then I can begin to process the next chapter? That's really hard. That's really, really hard. Normalizing grief and talking about it, again, is the whole reason we have this podcast. And, let's bring it into these conversations. So when I think about an emotion that comes up for me, I am feeling sadness. And regardless of when your loved one passed away, grief comes up in really weird ways. And tears, while first year is the year of firsts, and the second year is kind of like the year of realization, I would say, in year 3, there's still a lot of sadness, at least for me. Everyone's grief journey is different, but I find myself crying on a daily basis, especially during the holidays. Not every day of the year, but during the holidays, it's just this is what this week is all about, is like feeling those feelings and letting them out. Crying is a way of releasing those feelings. And I grew up in a household where we didn't cry like that. We didn't really talk about our feelings. And so, and now in my 30s, I'm like, okay, let's be the blubbering silly goose that's really talking about our feelings, making space for it. 'Cause I don't think that I really had enough of that growing up. The feeling that I feel is sadness, and so how I'm letting that show through is through tears. And I am letting myself cry the tears to release that feeling. And then I feel better after. And it doesn't have to be like a whole hour of crying. It's maybe I'm reading something on social media, or I'm reading an article that reminds me of something, or I'm looking at old pictures and thinking about memories, and brings up sadness, but it also brings up joy. And some of the tears are gratitude tears of where we are now on this journey, and all of the joy that is still here, and how we're making new traditions in this holiday season. So think about that. And something that brings me comfort during this season is there's something so magical about the Christmas tree lights and the silence and just the peace that comes as you're sitting there looking at the tree. Or maybe it's sitting by the fire and just feeling the warmth of the light. That, it's such a soft, warm, and welcoming light. And there's something so peaceful about it that gives me comfort, makes me want to cozy up with a blanket. And I do find myself drinking hot chocolate more than normal. I don't know, the holiday season, just that hot chocolate brings me comfort. And a boss once told me that people who are struggling, or who are having a tough time oftentimes drink hot chocolate. And I'm like, great, great. Grievers out there, go get yourself some hot chocolate. Let's come together by drinking the hot chocolate, and knowing that we're not in it alone, that we're all here together. So the journal prompt for the week, again, if you are not a journaler, but you're a verbal processor, go ahead, do a voice memo and think about what emotion is coming up for you in this space right now. How can you fully feel that? And then how can you bring yourself comfort after? Cozy up. Do what feels right for you. Give yourself that space. And maybe it's going outside and just feeling the cold air, in this season in the Northern Hemisphere where it's getting dark at, 4 or 5 o'clock. It can be really challenging. Seasonal depression is real. And so how can you support yourself and give yourself that hug? I don't feel like we give ourselves the love as much as we should. And especially if you're a caregiver or if you're ill yourself, give yourself grace and treat yourself like a best friend. Give yourself all the warm, cozy fuzzies. And so we have the journal prompt. And then also, if you're like, I'm not a journaler, I'm not a verbal processor, I'm a doer. So the doing for this week is to cook a recipe that reminds you of your loved one, and then capture the story behind it. So tell me your stories. I would love to hear it. I will share a quick one. Growing up, my mom always made dinner, and that was the thing. Like we very traditional family, and that my dad would work all day, he'd come home late. My mom would also work, but then she would always make dinner. And so one of her go-tos was chicken pot pie. I didn't know that there was like a gourmet way to do this. Growing up, she would always make the crust, and I'm pretty sure she would make the crust from scratch, but into the pie would go, the freezer bags of like mixed vegetables. Super easy, right? She'd throw in the mixed vegetables. She'd chop up get the rotisserie chicken, right? It's already cooked for you. It's already seasoned. Chop that up, put that in the pie with the vegetables and then whatever spices, uh, and mom's kitchen was usually salt and pepper. But no, she didn't cook with salt, so just pepper. My husband always jokes about what a bland New England diet I had, but yeah, pretty true. But cooking was still good. So That is what we would have once a week. But my mom hated lima beans, and lima beans were always part of the frozen vegetable mix. It was like frozen carrots, green beans, corn, and lima beans. I don't know why the lima beans are in there, but she would go through and she would pick them out one by one. And if she missed them and we were eating dinner, she would hide them. She would pick them out of the pie and she would hide them under her plate because she always told us kids we had to eat all of our vegetables. And I just thought it was so funny that I would always catch her and be like, Mom, what is underneath your plate? And she would hide those darn lima beans. And she said, You know what? My mom made me eat them as a child, and I will never make you girls eat these terrible things. And so I just grew up thinking lima beans were terrible. But that was the chicken pot pie story. So if you like lima beans, please go ahead and eat them. But if not, know that you are not alone. My mom hated lima beans, but her chicken pot pie was always so good. And it was also a comfort food. So thinking about, in this season, what brings us comfort? Chicken pot pie for me. So anyway, friends, please again share your stories. It's just such a light. I love Advent because we're really being intentional and there's like this magic in the air and there's community. And also, right, we're feeling and holding space for the feelings that we have inside. So thank you so much. Again, if you wanted to follow along and you're like, I don't do Instagram, I don't do Facebook, but you still want to have the prompts and think about the ideas, then email hello@lisahartung.com. That's hello at lisahartung.com. And I would be happy to send you the week's prompts so that you can kind of think about on a day-to-day basis, this helps us grieve. This helps us move through in a very intentional way our grief or whatever is coming up in this journey. Think about that. And I'll be back next week. You can always DM me if you have any questions. And thank you so much. May you give yourself grace this week, and sending all of my love to you. I see you, I feel you, and I'm grateful for you. Have a good one. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Giving Grief Grace. If you found the content interesting and think it could help a friend or a loved one, please share it with them. Subscribe to this podcast and get a weekly dose of positivity. And while you're at it, please leave a review. If you enjoyed the show and want to support me financially on my grief journey, I'm raising funds for Project Purple, a nonprofit whose mission is to see a world without pancreatic cancer. I'm doing this by running the New York City Marathon in November 2025, and I'll leave a link to my fundraising page in the show notes. If you've lost a loved one and are looking for support in an online community, consider joining our free private Facebook group, Giving Grief Grace. May you be kind to yourself in the week ahead and give yourself grace. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.